Okay, welcome everyone. We could already say our good Erev Shabbos as we learn the special segment known as For the Shabbos Table. And this week, it's a very special For the Shabbos Table. It's titled For the Shabbos Elul Table, 5785. We are sponsored by the Rubin family with the tefillah that they should be blessed with a Ben Zachar, a healthy Ben Zachar, and Avatzlach and Ruchnius and Gashmias. We're also sponsored by a wonderful woman who is co-sponsoring this year with a tefillah that her two daughters should find their proper shidduch quickly and easily. We are told, Davar be'itai matayv, in its proper time, how good it is. Now, this has many meanings. One of its meanings, of course, is that it's great to know at any given time in your life that right now you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's a great feeling. So, for example, 18 minutes before Shabbos, if a woman is already dressed l'kavod Shabbos and she lights the candles, that's what she's supposed to be doing with her life at that moment. That's a wonderful feeling. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If 50 minutes after Shkia on the 8 days of Hanukkah, you're surrounded with your family and you're lighting the menorah, davar be'itai matayv, something in its proper time, how good it is. In general, any time you open up a sefer and you learn Torah, if you don't have a mitzvah she'eino yochel lasais al yedei acherim, if you don't have a mitzvah that can't be done by anyone else, then you know that you're doing what you were supposed to be doing in life. It's a wonderful thing. So if your wife doesn't ask you to help her bathe the children, if she asks you to help her bathe the children, you have to help her. Who should she ask? Her neighbor's husband? But if she doesn't have an older daughter to help her, she needs your help, or she's cooking supper and somebody has to watch the baby in the bath who could chas v'shalom drown if you take your eye off it for a moment, then he has to close the Gemara. Because Gadol HaTalmud, Shatalmud Mevia L'Dei Maisa. Learning is great because it leads to action. A person who only learns and doesn't do, that's no good. You have to do. Right? Otherwise, you're a chassid shaita. But if you don't have a mitzvah that can't be done by other people, then always the best thing to do is learn. Right? That's the default position of a Jew. Lo yomer sefer ha'torah hazeh mipicha v'agisa b'yoyim b'layla. Meditated in day and night. B'shiftecha b'veisecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shachpecha, u'v'kumecha. But there's another meaning in davar be'itai matayv. And that is to talk about matters at hand. And the matter at hand right now is certainly what we should be doing during this critical time of the year known as Elul. Now, what does the word Elul mean? Now you'll say it's the name of the month, Elul. The pasuk says that Vayalu vayasuru es haaretz. They went up and they spied on the land. They inspected the land. And Onkelos interprets the word vayasuru as ve'elilu. Elul is a time of inspection. Now you know, our cars, it's mandated that we get an inspection. If a policeman or somebody by the toll booth sees that your car doesn't have an inspection sticker, you're going to get a ticket. So you might say to yourself, what right does the government have to tell me to inspect? You don't think I want to drive with a safe car? And the answer is, that's right. People are lazy. People are inattentive. People procrastinate. And if the government wouldn't mandate us to get inspections, then people would drive until their brakes fail, God forbid. People would drive unsafe cars. It's the same thing. Hashem mandates an inspection. Because if he wouldn't mandate an inspection, we would let our spirituality decay. We would let our spirituality fall into disrepair. We wouldn't take care of it. So therefore he gives us a day of judgment once a year that forces us to make an inspection. That's the purpose of Elul. When we hear the shofar, so the shofar we know, they used to blow the shofar when there was an emergency. The Gemara says that if there was a flash flood, they would blow the shofar. And people would know, it's an alert, there's a flash flood. You better, get to high land. You better get down and hunker down in basements. It's a flash flood. If there was a pogrom, so people would know that they have to batten down the hatches. They have to lock the doors and put furniture in front of the doors and in front of the windows. Gemara says if there was a famine, so they would blow the shofar to let people know they might have to move to where there's food. If there was a plague, they would blow the shofar. People would leave the city. So shofar is an alarm. And the Rambam says that the alarm is Uru Yeshenim Mishinaschem. Awaken people that are sleeping. People are lulled into a false sense of security. And there's good reason why people are lulled into a false sense of security. Here's a person. He's 50 years old. So for 50 years old, since his bar mitzvah, he's passed 37 Rosh Hashanahs and Yom Kippur. And nothing happened to him. So he has a sense of security. Nothing happened with 37 Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Nothing that happened now too. So the shofar says, wake up. Al tisyoish min haperaniyos. It's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Al tisyoish min haperaniyos. Don't give up the thought of retribution. Just sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom is an erech hapayim. He has patience. But it says, Kol ha'omer, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatrinu, whoever says Hashem looks away, Yevatru chayav. He'll look away from this person's life. It just could be that a person had schusim, or a person has schus avos, schus of ancestors, but they might be used up. So the shofar is blown. Wake up. Now the shofar, the Ksav Sofer says shofar stands for something else. Shofar means shaper, to make beautiful. Shapru ma'aseichem, make beautiful your ways. So here we have to know, the Gemara tells us that it says that we should do two things. Yefashvesh b'ma'asav and yemashmesh b'ma'asav. It's two steps. Yefashvesh b'ma'asav means to search out and ferret out the things that we are doing wrong. It means to make a cheshbon hanefesh and to look, and it's not easy. You have to know that normally Hashem doesn't like suicide. Hashem doesn't want people to be ma'abed atzmai midas. And Hashem doesn't want people to be depressed. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa to be b'simcha. B'samachta b'chol ha'tov asher nosan l'cha Hashem alikecha l'beisecha. The Bahag says that's one of the 613 mitzvahs. So therefore, normally Hashem made that we should be Teflon coated. It says, Ein Adam ro'eh nigei atzmai. A person doesn't see his own flaws. It's an ironic thing that you could come into a shul and right away see other people's flaws. There's a person that's davening Shemona Esrei and he's looking all around while he's davening. And you look at him and say, well, what a foolish person. You're talking to Hashem and that's what you're doing, you're looking around. We notice other people's flaws right away. You see a person, he's talking in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah, but our own flaws we don't see. Ein Adam ro'eh nigei atzmai. We don't see our own flaws. Now, the reason why Hashem made it that way is if we would constantly be confronted by our own flaws, we would be very depressed. But during this month, Elul means inspection, means to spy. During this month, we have to go against the grain and we have to make an inspection. Now, it could be that you might want to ask somebody to help you with this, but there are certain telling questions that a person could ask himself. He could ask himself in all brutal honesty, what is it like to be married to me? My wife, my husband has to live with me. What is it like to be married to me? A person could look in the mirror and say, am I a better husband or a better wife than 5 years ago? Am I better? The job of Elul is to make an inspection. I like to say that the way to make a cheshbon hanefesh is to go through the day from Moida Ani in the morning to Kriya Shema Lamita in the night. Now right away some people stop and say, you know, Tak, I don't say Moida Ani. Okay? So you have something to work on. Some people say, you know, I fall asleep, I don't say Kriya Shema. You have something to work on. But you go through the entire day. Now, not just Yefashvesh b'maisav, not just to check out the sins. Like we said, look at B'shayfet the Sha'arim, B'shayfet the gateways. How we are with our eyes, how we are with our mouth, how we are with our ears. But then there's also Yemashmesh b'maisav. Yemashmesh b'maisav means to feel out the good things that we do for imperfections. Now that's where Shofar Shapru Ma'aseichem comes to play. Beautify your ways. You put on tefillin every morning. But are you paying attention to tefillin is supposed to remind us things. So at the very least, like Rav Miller says, it says, in order that Torah should be in your mouth. When you put on the tefillin, you should say, I do this every morning. You should say, when am I going to learn Torah today? That's what the tefillin is supposed to remind you. You put on tefillin, when am I going to learn Torah today? But that's just the start. We put on tefillin, and it says, L'zichrain zroya netuya, the outstretched arm. You have to know that one of the big things of tefillin is to remind us about Yetzias Mitzrayim. Do you know when the first tefillin was made? It's a very interesting story. On the night of Pesach, it says that Hashem said, the destroyer is outside. Ish lo tzeitzei mipesach beisei loyla. No Jew was allowed to leave his house. It says we had the doorpost with the blood of the Dam Pesach on it, on the doorpost, on the lintel. That protected us. Don't leave the house. What did we do that night? The Maril Diskin says we took right afterwards we were going to rear for the first time tefillin. So the Maril Diskin said we took the hide of the Korban Pesach and we made tefillin. So the first time we wore the tefillin was right after we came out of Mitzrayim. When it says that we put it on our arm, l'zichrain zroya netuya, to remember the outstretched arm. So the Dvar Aaron says the zroya netuya. It says in the Haggadah zroya netuya zu cherev. That's the sword, and it says that the sword refers to makas b'chayros, to the killing of the firstborns. So it reminds us of the miracle of the killing of the firstborns, and that we Jews were saved. Hashem passed over our houses. Now we put on the tefillin also. See, this is Yemashmesh b'maisa. We all put on tefillin, but we want to feel it out and see if we could do it better. But first of all, we have to remember that we should have a clean body when we put on our tefillin. That's so important. That's why, although a bar mitzvah boy wears tzitzis, as soon as you train the child, you put on tzitzis. And we start teaching the child Torah Tziva Lana Moshe. But he doesn't put on tefillin until a month before his bar mitzvah. Why? Put on tefillin when he's 8 or 9. Because you can't be sure that he'll put it on with a clean body. Person has to have a clean body. He has to clean himself. That's Yemashmesh b'maisav. It says we put it on Keneged Alev, opposite the heart. That's why we put on it on the left hand, because the heart is towards the left side. To subjugate our heart to Hashem's service. You know what that means? It says that Rishoim b'rishus libam. The wicked are controlled by their hearts. Tzadikim libam b'rishusam. The righteous control their hearts. We put on the tefillin to remember that we shouldn't be led by our hearts, but we should control our hearts. It's a big job. To control your heart means not to get jealous, not to desire what's not yours, not to harbor hate, not to harbor grudges. We put it on our head to control the thoughts of our mind. We put the tefillin on our hand. The Meiri says there's 4 compartments in the tefillin shoraish because there's 4 senses in the head. Sense of smell, the sense of taste, seeing, and hearing. The hand has 1 sense, the sense of touch. Put the tefillin on the hand, and we say, are we using our touch? A married person has to use their touch for the right purposes. That's one of the reminders of the tefillin. That's Yemashmesh B'maza. And this is just one thing. Yemashmesh B'maisa, a person could make an avodah and say, remember I told you, and I can't stress this enough. Each and every one of us says to Hashem, Hashem, I just don't want another year. I want a better year. Better health, better wealth, better shalom bayis. Better, 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 better. Hashem says, sure, you're B'nai B'chai, Yisrael, you're my child, I'm your father. Just one thing. You have to be fair. You want better, tell me how you're going to be better. That's why I say everybody should have in their mazer a to-do better list. In the to-do better list, it should say, hopefully, things that we want to do better. One can make a whole campaign over mezuzah. A whole campaign. Letting the mezuzah be a wake-up call throughout the day.